A big hello to all of you. How are you people? Welcome to today's session. Yeah, about to begin. Okay, dear friends, a big hello to all of you. A warm welcome to my video. And I hope everyone joined in because today's session is specially kept on your request. You all wanted to study locomotion and movement. So from today onwards, we are going to begin with that. It will take another 5 to 6 sessions and then we will be done, right? So a big welcome to all of you. Do join in fast. We are waiting. Okay, bache log. All right, so dear friends, I welcome you all to this largest online learning platform being provided to us by Unacademy. You're listening to me via Unacademy's NEET UG in English channel. Okay, so the entire session is going to be in English, and if at all I feel कि कहीं थोड़ा लग रहा है तुम लोग को, then I will do that part in Hindi also. All right. So a big hello and welcome to all of you. Do join in fast. This session is specially for you people. Okay, bachalo. So my dear friends who have joined me for the first time, I just wish to give a brief introduction about myself. I am Namita Koranne, and I hold a degree of master's in biomedical technology. I also hold a degree of B.Ed, and I am a very passionate teacher. I am in this field for past 16 years, right? So I'm helping students like you to crack their NEET examination. I'm here to help the pre-medical exam aspirants. All right. Okay, dear friends. So this was a brief introduction about myself. Let us begin with the topic, and the topic that is requested by you people. You wanted me to do locomotion and movement, so we are here to do the locomotion and movement. Today we will see the introduction part, and also we will start with some of the bones part. So stay connected to the video throughout, right? Okay, bachalo. Hmm. Pay utmost attention to this 3D model that I have put in this slide. This is for you people to get a complete picture of how does a skeletal system look like. What does it look like? You have learnt about the bones, everything, but this is the maximum that I can do to show a 3D appearance of all the bones, right? Okay, so this Mr. Skeleton is going to be with us throughout our lecture, and we will study the bones there. Okay, bachalo? Chalo, let us begin. All right, before we begin with our session, I would just like to introduce you to the few benefits of Unacademy to all my new joinees who are listening to me for the first time. What are the benefits that they are going to avail uh, after joining this platform and taking the subscription? These are some of the educators like us, and we are professionals in our field, and we are here to mentor you, to help you, to guide you, right? So stay connected and take the subscription so that you can take complete advantage of all the videos. All right. Okay. Why should we go for Unacademy? That's because it provides us flexible schedule. In this time of pandemic, when we cannot step out of our house, and we have every learning going on through the online platform, if there is a clash with any of the class, then you can definitely see the recorded lectures. So flexible schedule is the first and foremost thing, so that you can use it. I mean, you can see the videos afterwards also. The recorded videos are always there, right? You can select the language of your choice, like you are listening to me via NEET UG in English. So the conversation is going to be in English, right? So that you can select the language of your choice. And unlimited practice is what makes a person successful. You get to practice a number of things over here. Like a few sessions back only, we had our practice session for chemical control and coordination, breathing and exchange, and that was conducted live. So students really enjoyed it a lot, right? Okay, you can chat with the educator, you can chat with me, you can drop in your messages in the live chat box and they will be answered. you can get your doubts cleared through that. There are interactive polls also available. Now these are available on Unacademy's Learner app. So you download the app. Downloading the app won't charge anything. Then you can see the special classes, and then you take the subscription to take the full advantages of all the courses running there, right? So interactive polls can be done at the learning app also, and there are quizzes also which are available here, right? Okay, and it is learn anytime anywhere. Like right now you're listening to this lecture of mine or video of mine from the comforts of your home, so it's learn anytime anywhere. All right, these are the mock series that I was talking about. Once you take the subscription, become part of Unacademy, then all these test series are available to you, and you can practice as much as you want. This really helps. Okay, now this is what I was talking about. If you have not yet downloaded this app, please download this Unacademy's learning app through your Play Store or App Store, and there you go. Okay, now these are the prices which have increased just from 24th of October. So these are the new prices. All right. And if you use my code, which is NAMYT, please use my code NAMYT. You will get 10% discount on the subscription. So this is, suppose if you select this one, 56,000 is the actual amount. If you use my code, you get 50,400, right? Okay, I just want to show you what have you missed. You have missed these prices. If you would have done it before 24th of October, these were the older prices, right? Okay, remember the code NAMYT. You will get 10% discount on these prices. Okay? Okay, bacha log. So here we go. Our topic begins, and this tiny fellow is here to welcome us all for this session of locomotion. All right. Okay, locomotion. Right now, there are two things which always comes in our mind. It is, the name of the chapter is Locomotion and Movement, right? Sometimes, or rather most of the times, we feel these two are same. Locomotion is equal to movement, but I am here to tell you that the two of them are not same, right? Locomotion is different from movement. Okay, so what is locomotion? Let us first see the definition of locomotion. Locomotion is movement of individual from one place to another. Movement of individual from one place to another. So you get up from your chair, you take few steps ahead. That is locomotion. If I'm waving at you like this is not locomotion, because then I have not covered any distance. No? So what is the first priority of locomotion? You have to cover a distance. Are you getting this? So you get up, take few steps, cover a distance. That is known as locomotion. Just waving at someone or moving your head, that's not locomotion. Is that okay? So what is locomotion? Please remember, locomotion is movement of individual from one place to another. That's locomotion. Okay. All right. It is the change in the loci. Now, what is the change in the loci? Suppose if a person is standing here at point A, he starts walking, goes to point B, right? So his locus has changed, right? Locus has changed. So change in the loci is locomotion. All right. So far clear, everyone? Okay. And locomotion does involve movement. So can we say locomotion is actually a type of movement, which means movement is a broader picture and locomotion is part of it. Can we say that locomotion is part of movement? Can we say that? Yes, we can say that. All right. But the important thing is a distance has to be covered. Locomotion means you have to cover a distance, right? So waving at someone, just moving the head, that's not a locomotion. That's simply a movement. But when you get up, take few steps, travel a distance, change your position, that's locomotion. Is that okay? And we can always say that locomotion is part of movement. right? Are all locomotion movement? Yes. Are all movements locomotion? No. All locomotions movement. All movement not locomotion. Okay? So there has to be a change in the loci of an animal. There has to be a change in the loci. There has to be a distance covered, right? And this tiny fellow is going to tell you what is locomotion. Here he goes, right? Though he just jumped, but we are talking about walking. All right. Okay, bacha log, no doubt here. Okay, this was really simple. We are now moving ahead. Fine. Movement. Okay. So then what is movement? As I told you as an example, my moving of hand or head or rolling of my eyes, that's a movement, right? Not necessarily that I'm covering a distance over there. Okay. Okay, so movement is it's a basic characteristic of all the living organisms. All the living organisms, which means that you consider even sponges, they are porifera. They don't move themselves, but their cells do move. Their cells, they have canals through which the water gets in. Canals होते हैं ना, canal system अंदर उसमें पानी water अंदर आता है, then water leaves. So there is a movement of water because the cells are letting the water in. Okay, so even the tiniest animals show movement. Amoeba, it's a living organism. It shows movement with the help of pseudopodia, right? So movement is a characteristic of all living organisms, right? But what kind of movement? Someone is standing and you are pushing him. That's not a movement because then that uses external force. A movement shown by living organism which is autonomic. Autonomic, that is self-induced, right? A movement is a basic characteristic of all the living organisms. It's autonomic, it's self-induced and does not have any external force. If you're pushing someone, that's not a movement. But if that someone is getting up, is waving at you, that's a movement. Okay, self-induced, autonomic, that's a movement. I hope the difference between the movement and locomotion is clear to you, right? Okay. Next, it involves the movement of body parts. So when we talk about animals, multicellular animals that we are talking about, right? So they have different body parts. They might not have, some of them just have cellular level organization, some have tissue level organization, but they have multiple cells. Okay, so the movement in the body parts, that's known as it involves various kinds of movements in the body parts, right? Now body parts could be the you can see the movement external, or you can there are certain movements which are internal and you don't get to know about this, right? So what am I trying to say? Locomotion is distance covered, you cover a distance. Movement is autonomic, self-induced, characteristic of all the living organism where no external force is used. Whatever you are doing is what you are doing. Waving at someone, getting up, walking, they are all movement. And it actually involves movement of body parts, right? Okay, so shall we move to the next? It is of two types. Movement is of two types, right? Number one, movement of external body parts, right? So external body parts as in the hands, the legs, the movement of hands and legs, that's an external body part. Okay, which means it also involves the movement of internal body parts. Now internal body parts, we'll talk about that. What are the movement of external and internal body parts, right? But is this clear to everyone that movement is a broader picture? It is a characteristic of all the living organism, but it should be self-induced, no external force should be used, and it is of two types: movement of external parts and movement of internal body parts. All right, okay, we move ahead. Okay, now this fellow is here to tell you what actually movement means. All right, okay, movement of external body parts. Okay, so it involves a number of reasons of movement of external body parts, like movement of limbs for locomotion. So animals have forelimbs and hind limbs which they use for locomotion. Some of them use their limbs for flying, some use it for swimming, We use it for walking. So movement of limbs for locomotion, that is the movement of external body parts. That's one of the reason for movement of external body part. External body part का movement जो है, that you can see by the external body organs only. What are they? Their hands, legs. So someone hands and legs are moving. They are usually moving for locomotion. Okay? Okay. Then movement of body parts to capture the food, right? Movement of body parts to capture the food. That's also external movement. All right. So some of us use hands. Some lower animals, they have the wild animals, they use their forelimbs to do that, right? Okay. Movement to maintain the body balance, right? So we are the animals who have erect posture, so we try to balance our body, so we try to fix it straight and then walk. We don't limp और ऐसे झुक कर नहीं चलते हैं, right? So external body parts, they remain straight so that we can walk properly. So our skeletal system is designed that way. Okay, then movement of eyeballs. You move your eyeballs to see here and there. That's the movement of external body parts, right? Movement of ear pinna. Our ear pinna of human beings don't move, but ear pinna of animals like dogs, they move in the direction of the sound, right? So movement of ear pinna, that is movement of external body parts, right? So what are the reasons or examples that you have seen? The movement of limbs. Limbs are moved for locomotion. Then movement of body parts to capture the food, to maintain the body balance, movement of eyeballs and movement of ear pinna. They are all reasons or examples of external body parts movement, right? And this fellow is going to show this. See, movement of entire head or eyeballs, right? Okay, students, shall we move? Right. Now, movement of internal body parts. So here in this figure, I am trying to show you the movement of internal body parts. Okay. Peristaltic movement shown by GI tract. This is our esophagus, right? And this is the stomach. The food actually enters the esophagus, right? As soon as the food enters the esophagus, that part actually expands and the food is then pushed below. That is known as peristalsis. Now, peristalsis is shown by GI tract. It is shown by our gastrointestinal tract, and it is also shown by urinary tract for the removal of urine, right? So, what is peristalsis? It is contraction and relaxation of smooth muscles so as to enable us to eat, so as to enable to urinate, right? Now that is an internal movement. You do not know about this movement. Once you have swallowed your food, एक बार खाना खा लिया, उसके बाद तो esophagus, stomach, intestine, food किधर है ये पता ही नहीं चलेगा. Because now that movement is not under your control. It is internal body parts, which mean internal body parts are moving. But are they locomoting? No, they are not changing their place while they are moving. ऐसा ही होता है ना कि स्टमक जो है वो कहीं घूम कर आ जाता है, नहीं ना? Okay, so movement of internal body parts. In that, first we talked about peristaltic movements. Okay. Second, pumping of the heart. Now heart keeps on pumping. It is showing movement, but it's not under your control, right? And it's not helping in the locomotion. Breathing. The process of breathing is due to internal body parts. Which muscles? Diaphragm and external intercostal muscles. Parturition. The baby birth. That's also an internal body movement. Right? Are you getting this? So here I am trying to show that there are certain movements which you don't come to know about, but they are taking place in your body. कौन कौन से हैं वो जो तुम्हें पता नहीं चलते फिर भी बॉडी में वो movements हो रहे हैं? जैसे हो गया peristalsis of GI tract and urinary tract, then pumping of heart, breathing and parturition. ठीक है? ये they are taking normally in your body, so they are internal body movements. Is that okay? Okay, this is going to jump and come back. All right. Okay, dear friends, we'll move ahead. Okay, now we are going to describe the movement in our body. Okay, human body. We will now basically going to talk about the movement of human body. Okay, now movement in human body is of number of types. So it's actually of 4 types. What are those 4 types? Let us see. The amoeboid movement, the amoeba-like amoeboid movement, which is due to pseudopodia, is shown by WBC. I would like to show something to you, that consider this as your blood vessels, right? And a WBC is there in a blood vessel. You know WBC is irregular, amoeba jaise shape hota hai uska. So it is irregular. This is an irregular WBC present in the blood vessel. But close to this blood vessel, there is a tissue. And this tissue is very sad. It's only because it is being infected. This is our tissue, which is infected. It has got attack of germs, right? So when these WBCs come close to this tissue, then what happens that the blood vessels, from the gaps, not the entire vessel, from the gaps of there then generates the gaps in the blood vessel. I'll show you. Wait. Then from the gaps of the blood vessel, the WBC tries to squeeze out and move towards the tissue and perform phagocytosis. This movement of WBC, this movement of WBC out of blood vessel is known as diapedesis. It's called diapedesis. And once this WBC enters into the tissue area, then it performs phagocytosis. Right? So in all these places, can you see a movement? WBC is moving from blood vessel, is entering into the tissue. That movement is called diapedesis. Then it goes to the tissue and performs phagocytosis of the germs. Right? So this is the movement. This is the movement of WBC in our body. It is achieved with the help of pseudopodia, and such a movement is known as amoeboid movement in our body, shown by WBCs. Is that okay, bache log? Right? So we are learning types of movement in our body. So there are 4 types of movement. We have learned the first one. What's the first one? The amoeba-like movement, shown by WBC due to pseudopodia. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to erase everything on this slide so that fine. The next movement is ciliary movement. You have cilia on your cells, right? Especially on the cells of respiratory tract and in female reproductive system in the oviduct. In the respiratory tract, if this is the respiratory tract, then the cells of the respiratory tract have cilia, right? Now this cilia can trap, it can trap the dust, right? And then that dust is removed out of our respiratory tract by sneezing or coughing. All right, so we have ciliary or ciliated epithelium there to remove the dust or foreign objects that's entering our system. Similarly, in a female reproductive system, if you remember the structure of female reproductive system, this is ovary. Ovary is attached to oviduct, right? And oviduct then opens into a sac-like structure, that's uterus, right? So I'm just drawing half of it. There is another half on the other side. I'm just drawing the half of it, right? So ovum is released from the ovary. This ovum has to enter into this region. This is called oviduct. Okay. Now ovum doesn't have any legs to move. So ovum at the entry point here, you see here, the cells are ciliated and they help the ovum to propel into the oviduct. So because of the ciliated cells, the cells here are ciliated. They allow ovum to enter into the oviduct. and wait here for the process of fertilization, right? So this movement is called ciliary movement. Ciliary movement meaning the movement due to cilia. This cilia is present in the epithelial lining of respiratory tract and reproductive tract as in oviduct. Is that okay, bachalo? Right? Okay, so I am removing everything here on the slide. All right, the next one. Muscular movement. Now this is very common movement. The muscles in our body, let it be a smooth muscle or a skeletal muscle, they undergo contraction and relaxation, and for that matter even the cardiac muscle, they undergo contraction and relaxation and move, right? So some of the movements you come to know because they are external movement, like this is a muscular movement. I am waving at you is a muscular movement. You will come to know about this. But there are certain movements like movement of your esophagus, you will not come to know about this. So those are all the muscular movements. Muscular movements are always brought about by muscles. How? By contraction and relaxation of muscles. Okay? Okay. Flagellar movement, the last one. And the only example in the human body is human sperm. Human sperm has a head, a middle piece region, and then a tail, right? Okay, head has got a nucleus. Now this tail is actually a flagella. It's a flagella. And this tail actually helps in the movement of the sperm in the female reproductive tract, right? So movements are attained by, or rather they are of 4 different types. What are they? The amoeba-like movement shown by WBCs, because they have pseudopodia, because their shape is irregular. Ciliary movement due to cilia, right, present in the lining of respiratory tract or oviduct. Then muscular movement due to relaxation and contraction of muscles, all right, and flagellar movements due to flagella, and the only example is human sperm for motility. Is that okay, bachalo? And this is actually a 3D model of a bacterium here. This is not a sperm, but I have added this to show you what is flagella. So pay attention to this last part. This is flagella. This is flagella. Is that okay, bachalo? All right. So shall we move ahead? Okay. So now we begin with our topic, that is human skeletal system. Okay, this is our topic. This is the topic that we are going to do today, human skeletal system. Okay, now what is skeleton? Skeleton is something that gives us protection. So it is actually protective in nature. It is something that gives us protection, right? It gives us protection. Now, skeleton has to be made up of something hard substance which is present externally or internally, and that is called skeleton. So what is skeleton? Skeleton is a hard thing, hard substance that is present on the external side of the body or in the internal inside the body is called skeleton. And what is its main purpose? To give us protection. Okay, exoskeleton, right? Exoskeleton. Exoskeleton is the skeleton that is outside the body. The skeleton that's present outside the animal's body, like shelled animals, right? Shelled animals, mollusks, right? Pila, वो beaches में नहीं तुमको शंख and CP दिखते हैं. They are all shelled animals. So they have shells outside their body. Cockroach also has exoskeleton, chitinous exoskeleton. If you remember, cockroach has chitin. Chitinous exoskeleton. All right. Human body has hair and nails as exoskeleton. All right. So what is exoskeleton? The protective structure that's present outside the body, right? Like shelled animals, mollusks. Examples are some of the mollusks, right? And in human body, hair and nails of our body. In arthropods, chitinous exoskeleton. Um, arthropods like cockroach, they have chitinous exoskeleton. Their exoskeleton is made up of chitin. Okay. Okay. Endoskeleton. We are more interested in this. Endoskeleton. The skeleton that's present inside the body is called endoskeleton. It comprises of bones and cartilage. Endoskeleton. The protective substance that's present inside the body, right? Or the protective tissue. We'll not use the word substance, rather we'll use the word tissue. The protective tissue present inside the body, that's endoskeleton. Example, bones and cartilage. All right. Okay, I'll remove everything here so that we move on to the next. Right. Okay, so bones and cartilage. We are more interested in bones. Human skeletal padhenge na? So bones. Bones and cartilage are protective connective tissue. They are connective tissue. Ye yaad rakhna. They are connective tissue. And matrix of the bone is the hardest. Matrix of the bones is the hardest. Okay, what is matrix? Bache log, please pay attention. These are the cells of the connective tissue, and these cells secrete a substance around them. So I'll show it to you with the help of another color. See, these cells secrete something around themselves, right? This is a protein thing. In case of bone, it has mineral also. Now this thing is matrix, right? And these are cells. Is that okay? So bones and cartilage both are endoskeleton, and they are both protective connective tissue. Why are they connective tissue? Because they connect our body parts. That is why they are connective tissue. All right. And matrix of the bone is the hardest substance, living substance. Okay. The hardest living substance is matrix of the bone. All right. Shall we move? Okay. Functions of skeleton. Why do at the first place we have skeleton? What is the importance of skeleton? और skeleton नहीं होगा तो vital organs को protect कौन करेगा? ठीक है? But apart from that, there are many other functions that we need to see. Number one, it supports our body, right? It gives a framework to our body. It gives a framework to our body, right? Imagine a body without skeletal system. There will not be any body. The type of multi-dimensional functions that you do, you might not be able to do. ठीक है? If there is no skeleton, ठीक है? किसी का हाथ ही फ्रैक्चर हो जाता है, you are not able to move that hand. So imagine, right? So it supports our body. It gives our body a proper framework. Okay? Okay. Then definitely it protects our body. It protects our body. It protects our vital organs. Vital organs like brain is protected in cranium. Okay? The heart and lung are protected by ribs and sternum, right? So it protects our vital organs. So it's protective in nature. It provides the site of attachment for muscles. This is very, very important. If you don't have a skeletal system, where are your muscles going to attach to? They will not be able to attach to anything. Muscles है body में किधर attach ही नहीं हो पाएंगे. ठीक है? So for muscles to attach, they have a site of attachment at bones only. Muscles attach to bones, right? So they work in sync. When muscles are attached to bones, this is how you are able to locomote. You are able to move. Okay? Okay, they are responsible for movement. And here movement meaning they are talking about locomotion, because locomotion is a part of movement. Okay? All right. So they support our body, which means they give us a framework. They protect our vital organs such as heart, brain, and lungs. They provide site of attachment for muscles. So if there are no skeletal system, no bones, muscles will not attach. Okay? And you will not be able to move. They help in movement, that is locomotion. To be precisely, locomotion. Okay, they give our body a shape. So a human being has a erect posture and a typical shape. That's because of its skeletal system, right? And if a person deposits too much fat on it, then that's okay. Okay, we still have a human shape. It's only because of our skeletal system. We are not like other animals who are walking on all their limbs. They are using all their four limbs to walk. We are only using our hind limbs. We keep our four limbs for other multitasking things. Okay? Okay. So it provides shape to the body. Blood cell formation, very important part, students, right? Now the blood cells, we are talking about RBCs, WBCs and platelets. All these things are formed inside the bone. So if this is the bone, this hollow region of the bone is called bone marrow. The hollow region of the bone is called bone marrow. We'll learn about this because we are going to do the structure of the bone. Okay? So the hollow region is called bone marrow, and inside the bone marrow are formed all these RBCs, WBCs and platelets. So inside of the bone, the hollow region is lined by certain cells which are known as stem cells. They are stem cell epithelium. Okay, and they produce the RBCs, WBCs and platelets. So blood formation, another name for blood formation is hemopoiesis. Okay, so our blood is formed from the bone marrow, from the hollow part of the bone. Is that okay? So everyone, we are moving ahead. Mineral reserves, very important. Our bones are responsible for reserving calcium. So suppose in the blood, the level of calcium goes down, then the calcium is removed from the bone. Okay, because to maintain blood calcium is very, very important. This calcium is required by muscles, right? So the excess of the calcium can always be in the form of bones. Is that okay? That is why people are advised, especially females are advised to take good care of their bones, because as they approach menopause, uh, the bone breaking function starts. The bone tend to lose calcium. Okay, so mineral reserves, the calcium reserves, phosphate reserves, they are present in the bone. So during the emergency situation, the reserves are withdrawn from the bone and they enter into the blood. So calcium can enter from bone into blood and vice versa also. So if there is excess of calcium in the blood, that excess can always go to the bone. Is that okay? Okay. Breathing, absolutely. In breathing, the sternum, that is the chest bone, the ribs, they all move so that the thoracic cavity, the volume of the thoracic cavity increases and a person can breathe in. So for breathing, skeletal system is responsible, that helps us in breathing. All right. So I'm repeating all the functions once again. Skeletal system provides us support. It gives us protection, support as in the form of a particular framework that we have. It provides site of attachment to the muscles. It helps in the movement, that is locomotion. It gives our body a particular shape. The shape of the human body is because of its typical skeletal system. It helps in the the blood formation. The process of blood formation is known as hemopoiesis that takes place in the bone marrow. It is a site for mineral reserves. So minerals like calcium and phosphate are reserved in the bone. So whenever there is a need, they are drawn from there. And most important, it helps in the breathing. So sternum and ribs, they move, increase the cavity, thoracic cavity, and allows a person to breathe. I hope this is clear to everyone. We are moving further ahead, right? Okay. Anatomy of the bones, very important thing, right? When you are learning bones, anatomy of the bones meaning the various parts of the bones that you are going to learn. Okay. Structure of long bones. Now, my dear friends, the bones in our body are not all the long bones. There are certain short bones also, and there are certain, they have a typical shape also. like the ear ossicles. They are bones only, but they have very different shape. The structure that we are learning is of a typical long bone. So we are learning a structure of a typical long bone. Okay? The ones which are used in locomotion. Certain bones have a very typical structure. We are not discussing those structures. Is that okay? So we are discussing the structure of long bones here. Please pay attention to this now. Okay, we are discussing a structure of typical long bone. I told you that in advance only. Okay, all right. Diaphysis. The first part of the bone is called diaphysis. It is the shaft of the bone. I have got a picture for you people. Let me see if it's there. Okay, I'll show you where it is. Diaphysis is the, see, I consider this as a normal bone, right? A long bone. Fine. Can you see this particular region? I'll use another ink so that you can make out a difference. Can you see this region? Can you see this region? Right? The long part of the bone. Now that part, that long part is shaft of the bone. It is also known as diaphysis. So this region is diaphysis. Okay. Can you see these rounded regions? Can you see that? The rounded ones? These ones. These are the rounded regions. Can you see that? Okay. I'm outlining them with green color. These are the rounded regions which are present on the two extremes of the bone. So, दोनों extremes पे there are rounded regions. Those two extremes of the bones are known as epiphysis. So, this is epiphysis. This is also an epiphysis. Is that okay? So, this is a typical structure of a bone. This long part of the bone is known as diaphysis. The rounded extremes of the bone is known as epiphysis. Alright. And can you see this joint? The place where diaphysis joins the epiphysis. Again, I'll use another color. I'm talking about this region. The region where diaphysis attaches to epiphysis. What is that region known as? Let us see. That's known as metaphysis. So in a mature bone, metaphysis is a place where epiphysis join diaphysis. Okay? So this region where epiphysis is joining diaphysis is known as metaphysis. But again, I have used the word in a mature bone. Bone of an adult who has attained his height. एक particular age के बाद height नहीं बढ़ेगा ना, right? But in children, is it still known as metaphysis? That we need to see. But is this okay? Are these three regions okay to all of you? We will move ahead then, right? Okay. We are talking about a structure of a typical long bone. Very important to know. We are only talking about typical long bone ka structure. The shaft of the bone is known as diaphysis. So this is diaphysis, the long part. The extreme part, which is a rounded part, is known as epiphysis. So these two are epiphysis. And the place where epiphysis joins the diaphysis is known as metaphysis in adults, right? Okay, so I'll remove this inked thing and we'll see what is the next. There is a note coming. What is the note? The note says that in a growing bone of a child or children, it has epiphyseal plate where cartilage is replaced by bone. Okay? Instead of metaphysis, which means suppose if I have to draw a bone of a growing child, then this is epiphysis, this is diaphysis, right? And this region, this particular region, this region, in adults we were calling it as metaphysis, but here it is called epiphyseal plate. It is called epiphyseal plate. In whom? In case of growing children. Why? Because here it is a cartilage and that cartilage is slowly replaced by bone. So until unless that child become an adult and attains the adult height, it will still be called as epiphyseal plate. What is epiphyseal plate? Epiphyseal plate is nothing but another name for metaphysis in whom? In growing children. What happens there? This area has cartilage. This area has cartilage which is being replaced by bone. This area has cartilage which is being replaced by bone. Alright. So please do remember this. Right. So metaphysis in case of mature bone, where epiphysis joins diaphysis. Suppose if I consider this as a mature bone, this is metaphysis. But if I consider this as a bone of a growing child, then this is epiphyseal plate, where there is a cartilage deposited which slowly be replaced by bone. Okay. All right. I'm removing everything on the. Okay. All right. So this is what I am talking about. Can you see? This is epiphysis, right? This is diaphysis, and since this is a grown up bone, the region where epiphysis joins diaphysis is metaphysis. I hope you have understood by this, right? The rounded structure epiphysis, the shaft diaphysis, and the place where epiphysis attaches to the diaphysis, which means this is also epiphysis, is called metaphysis. Is that okay, bache log? Shall we move? Fine. Covering of the bones. The next thing, we learnt about the three parts of the bones: epiphysis, diaphysis, metaphysis. But this bone is not present as just bone in the body. It has to be packed and covered, नहीं तो कभी भी टूट जाएगा ना. अच्छे से packing हुआ है tissue का अच्छे से, right? So the bones are covered also. They are covered by what? That we need to see, right? They are covered by a cartilage. This cartilage is known as articular cartilage or articulating cartilage. हमेशा याद रखना, wherever two bones are joining, that is articulation. जहाँ पे भी दो bones join हो रहे हैं, that is articulation. तो cartilage का नाम हो गया articular or articulating cartilage. ठीक है? Now can you see? I will use a different ink. Okay. Now this is epiphysis, the rounded region. Can you see that? Now this rounded region, to give it a protection, is covered by a cartilage. This cartilage is known as articular cartilage or articulating cartilage, right? So the epiphyseal region is covered by a cartilage. That cartilage is known as articular cartilage. Is that okay? Fine. Next, what it is made up of? Since it is a cartilage, it is made up of hyaline cartilage. Now cartilage are of four broad types: hyaline cartilage, then yellow fibrous cartilage, white fibrous cartilage, and then the one that is deposited with the calcium, right? Okay, so here we have hyaline cartilage. Okay, this is a hyaline cartilage. It's a very delicate thin hyaline cartilage that covers which region? It covers epiphysis. All right. Okay. Next, this is the region where two bones articulate. Articulate matlab they come in contact with each other. So if two bones come in direct contact with each other, they might fracture each other. That is why they have a covering. That covering is articular cartilage. Okay. So what is articular cartilage? It is a covering of epiphyseal region. This is the epiphysis. This is the epiphyseal region. See, this is the epiphyseal region. It is covered by this blue covering, which is articulating or articular cartilage. So ये भी epiphysis है, ये भी epiphysis है, और उसके ऊपर का covering is articular cartilage. It helps two bones to join with each other. ठीक है? Okay. Periosteum. अभी चलो देखो what is periosteum. Now we have covered our epiphysis with articulating cartilage. ठीक है, लेकिन वो diaphysis तो cover नहीं हुआ है ना. So this diaphysis is covered by another covering. ये shaft वाला region is covered by another covering. This is diaphysis. It is covered by another covering, right? Not like epiphysis. So this covering is known as periosteum. This covering is called periosteum. This covering is called periosteum. Okay. Okay. So the region of the bone that is not covered by articulating cartilage is periosteum. Which region is not covered by articulating cartilage? The diaphyseal region. So that is covered by another covering. Now you have a covering over here. You cannot leave this shaft like this. No, this has also to be covered by something. इसको भी तो किसी से cover करना पड़ेगा. Epiphysis को तो हमने articulating cartilage से cover कर दिया. Diaphysis को हम दूसरे covering से cover करेंगे. The second covering is periosteum. Right? Okay. So diaphysis region is covered by another covering which is called periosteum. Okay. It is present in the shaft region of the bone. This is evident. This is the shaft of the bone. This region is shaft of the bone. All right. Okay. So your bone has got two coverings. On the epiphyseal region, you have articulating cartilage, and on the diaphyseal region, you have periosteum. Articulating cartilage is a cartilage. It's a hyaline cartilage, right? Whereas periosteum is a fibrous tissue. Okay. Okay. So what is the function of periosteum? Periosteums allow the bone to grow. They help in the repair and the nutrition. They provide nutrition also. So periosteum ऐसे बीच में से open हो जाता है, and from here the blood vessels go inside the bone. ठीक है? Okay. So periosteum, it helps in the growth. I mean, it doesn't hinder the growth of the bone. It doesn't inhibit the growth of the bone. It allows the bone to grow, and along with that, it also grows. It allows the repairing of the bone. It allows the entry of the nutrients because it allows the entry of blood vessels. Is that okay to everyone? All right. It serves as a site of attachment for tendons and ligaments. Very important thing. Right? So it allows tendons, bone to bone attachment is tendons, and muscle to bone attachment is ligament, right? So it allows the tendons and ligaments to attach. Naturally, this is the longest side of the bone, so tendons and ligaments are going to attach to this region only, right? So it allows tendons and ligaments to attach. So articulating cartilage on the epiphyseal region, periosteum on the diaphyseal region. Articulating cartilage is hyaline cartilage. Periosteum is actually fibrous. It provides site of attachment for tendons and ligaments. It helps in the bone growth, repair, and allows the nutrients to enter inside because it allows blood vessels to enter inside. Okay? And it is always present on the shaft of the bone, on the long part of the bone. Okay. All right. So let us see what's the next. Okay. Now next is medullary cavity. The next is medullary cavity. Okay. So let me draw a bone for you people. Okay. Now this is the epiphysis. This is diaphysis, and this is again epiphysis, right? Suppose if I cut open this bone, I cut this bone, all right, I will see that the bone is hollow from inside. The bone is hollow from inside. That cavity is known as medullary cavity. That cavity is called medullary cavity. If you take a section of the bone, you will find that the bone is hollow from inside. So there is a cavity inside. I'm talking about this region. The bone is hollow from inside. There is a cavity inside. This cavity is known as medullary cavity. This cavity is called medullary cavity. All right. Okay. Now, medullary cavity is present only in the diaphysis region, which means not here. Epiphysis में नहीं है, only in the diaphysis, the shaft region. ठीक है? Okay. Now, it consists of yellow bone marrow, right? So you know that if there is a cavity, that cavity should contain something. What does it contain? It contains bone marrow. But typically, what kind of bone marrow? Typically, yellow bone marrow. And yellow bone marrow is the one that stores fat. Then from where are our blood cells formed? Are they formed from yellow bone marrow? No. They are formed from the marrow, which is not actually in the cavity. There is a marrow in the epiphyseal region. There is a marrow over here. In this region, there is a marrow. This marrow, this is not a cavity. So we don't call it as medullary cavity, but there is a marrow. Please remember, epiphysis does not have a cavity, but it has got a marrow. That marrow is known as red bone marrow. It is called red bone marrow. And this red bone marrow produces RBCs, WBCs, and platelets. Right? So now you know two things. That the rounded portion of the bone is the one that produces blood cells. Why? Because it is the region that has red bone marrow. But it does not have a cavity. There is no cavity inside. So there is cluster of bone cells known as trabeculae. Right? We will learn about this when we do the microscopic structure of the bone. Okay. So there is a cluster of cells arranged in the column known as trabeculae. So there is no cavity inside, but the places or the spaces around them is known as bone marrow, and that is typically a red bone marrow. This red bone marrow produces the blood cells. So hemopiesis takes place in red bone marrow, whereas diaphysis has got a cavity inside. That cavity is known as medullary cavity. This cavity is lined by which bone marrow? It is lined by yellow bone marrow, and that stores fat. That's the fat reserve of our body. Okay. See, it stores fat. Here it is. It stores fat. Okay. Endosteum. ठीक है, अभी अच्छे से सुनो एक चीज. I'm going to erase everything which is there on the slide. Okay. You learnt articular cartilage that's present on the epiphyseal region, on this region. We have an articulating cartilage over here. Then we have a periosteum. So I will use another color. We have a periosteum. We have a periosteum over here that contains the diaphysis region, right? You have a cavity inside, that's a medullary cavity, and in the diaphysis region, that medullary cavity is filled with yellow bone marrow that stores fat, right? So suppose this is the yellow bone marrow. It's inside the bone. In that cavity, there is a yellow bone marrow. Can you see it on your screen? This is a yellow bone marrow. Right? Okay. And surrounding this yellow bone marrow, there is another lining. There is another lining. Can you see this red lining? This red lining is endosteum. Is that okay? So, suppose if I try to dissect this bone and learn its various layers. The first layer that we are going to cross is periosteum, right? Then actual bone. Then comes endosteum, and finally comes medullary cavity. We have dissected this bone from which side? From its shaft region. We have dissected this bone from the shaft. So when we start dissecting, the first layer is periosteum because that's the covering. Then is actual bone. Then is another layer that's lining the cavity. That another layer is endosteum. Okay. And Inside the endosteum is present a cavity. That cavity is medullary cavity, and this medullary cavity is, it consists of yellow bone marrow. Fine. So periosteum, bone, endosteum, medullary cavity. Periosteum, bone, endosteum, medullary cavity. And medullary cavity is filled with bone marrow, yellow bone marrow. We are talking about diaphysis region. Is that okay? Let us see. Okay, the lining of medullary cavity is called endosteum. That's what I told you. This is the lining of medullary cavity, which is known as endosteum. Uh-oh. Any problem in this? No, I hope this part is clear to all of you, right? Okay. So we move on to the next. And the next is, if we have got a bone and we observe this bone under a microscope. So we take a slice or the section of the bone and we observe it under the microscope. That is known as microscopic structure observation of the bone. That's what we are going to do now. All right. Okay. So please pay attention. Okay. Now the bones. If I take a section of the bone and observe it under the microscope, I'll find that there are two things. It consists of a matrix part and a cellular part. Once again, when I take a section of the bone and observe it under the microscope, I see two parts, a matrix part and a cells part. Again, these are the cells of the bone, right? And these cells are suspended or present in some substance around them, right? So some substance around these cells is actually matrix. So this blue is matrix and the red ones are bone cells. All right. So bone is made up of two things, matrix and cells. We will first discuss about the matrix. All right. Okay. Yes, matrix is the area that is surrounding the bone cells. See the blue region. If the red ones are the bone cells, matrix is the area that is surrounding the bone cells. All right. Okay. It is the hardest substance, living substance known in the body. Okay, it is the hardest living substance in the body. Don't consider enamel of the teeth. That's not living. Okay, hardest living substance in the body is matrix of the bone. It is made up of protein, right? So this matrix is made up of protein. What is the name of the protein? Protein is osin. It's made up of protein osin. तो यहाँ पे बहुत सारा ओसिन प्रेजेंट है और साथ में प्रेजेंट है कैल्शियम एंड फॉस्फेट, right? So a lot of osin deposited with lot of calcium and phosphate, that makes it hardest. All right. See, I'll remove all these things so that you can read properly. Okay. So there is osin there. The protein is known as osin and it is deposited with calcium phosphate salts, which is known as hydroxyapatite. It is known as hydroxyapatite. So that calcium phosphate salts are known as hydroxyapatite. All right. Where are they deposited? They are deposited in the protein region of the matrix, and that protein is made up of protein osin. O-S-S-E-I-N. Osin. All right. Okay. Now, in the matrix, in the center of the matrix, there is a canal. This canal is known as Haversian canal. The canal is called Haversian canal. We are coming to the diagram, so don't get confused right now. We are talking about that the bone, if you take a microscopic structure of the bone and observe it under the microscope, you will find that it consists of matrix and cells. Cells of bones are living cells, and those cells are suspended in something around them that is called matrix. That matrix is basically osin deposited with calcium phosphate, that is known as hydroxyapatite, right? And in the center of the matrix there is a canal. That canal is known as Haversian canal. We are going to look at the structure in our next slide. Okay. Now Haversian canal, having the Haversian canal, if you see under the microscope a bone of a fish, right? A bone, maybe a bone of an amphibian and bone of a mammal, you can very well make out which is a bone of a mammal, because only mammals have Haversian system. It's a mammalian characteristic. It is a mammalian feature. Presence of Haversian canal in the bone is a mammalian feature, right? So under the microscope, if you are given a section of a fish bone, amphibian bone, and a mammal bone, you will make out which is a mammalian bone because they have Haversian canal, right? What is Haversian canal? In the center of the matrix, there is a canal which is known as Haversian canal. We will see the structure now. Okay. All right, and remember this hydroxyapatite. That's nothing but calcium phosphate salts deposited on the protein osin. Now, this protein is produced by bone cells only. The matrix is synthesized by bone cells. Okay? That is why it is a true connective tissue. That's the function of a true connective tissue. They produce their own matrix. So, matrix is produced by bone cells itself. Okay. Okay. Now, two Haversian canals. Suppose if these are the two Haversian canals, they are connected to each other by a Waxman canal. Right. Once again, matrix. In the center, there is a Haversian canal. Now, the two Haversian canals communicate with each other by Waxman canal. The two Haversian canals communicate with each other by Waxman canal. There has to be a communication between them. Right, we are talking about living structure, though they are hardest, but they are living. Okay. Okay, around the Haversian canals are present the bone cells. So around the Haversian canal are present the bone cell. I will erase everything, give you a rough structure, and then we will move ahead. Okay, so suppose this is matrix, this is entirely matrix. In the center, you have Haversian canal, right? Around this Haversian canal, you have got the bone cells. Bone cells have got actually processes, huh? Please remember, they have processes. So these are the bone cells. All right. Okay. So these bone cells are present around this canal. This canal is, it's a Haversian canal, right? This is one section. There is another section also, and that another section will have its own Haversian canal. हर थोड़ी थोड़ी दूर में एक एक Haversian canal होगा ना. So these two Haversian canals are going to communicate with each other. The two of them are going to communicate with each other with the help of Waxman canal. Are you getting this? So this is Haversian canal. Around them are present the bone cells, and around that is present, this is entire matrix. This is one Haversian canal, this is second Haversian canal. The two of them are connected with the help of Waxman canal. Is that okay? All right. I hope this part is clear to everyone. We are moving next. Okay, cells of bones. Very, very important, right? Now, about these cells, we have learned in our chapter tissue, the organization of the structural organization of animals. That's the name of that chapter. In that, we had learned about the bones, and there they have mentioned these things. But since we are talking about the skeletal system, we have to first organize our knowledge about the bone completely. So I have a brief introduction for you about the cells of the bones. All right. Okay, osteoblasts. The first cell of the bone is known as osteoblast. They are the ones which form bones. These are the ones which form bones. All right. Okay. They have lost their ability to divide. They are bone forming cells, but they have lost their ability to divide. They cannot divide. All right. They look like this. Right. Now these processes are called canaliculi. Okay. The processes are called canaliculi. Okay. And this is a bone cell. It's a bone cell. What kind of bone cell? Osteoblast. Right. These are the cells which form bone, but they have lost their ability to divide. Right. Okay. The next cell is osteocyte. When osteoblast mature, they lose some of their processes. Okay, and now they are known as osteocyte. They are the ones which maintain the bone, right? So bone is formed by osteoblast. When osteoblasts mature, they form osteocyte. They maintain the bone. Bone forming cell, osteoblast. Bone maintaining cell, osteocytes. Okay, they maintain the structure of the bone. Is that okay? All right, osteoclasts, right? Osteoclasts are modified monocytes. Okay, monocytes are the ones which perform phagocytosis. Monocytes are actually WBCs. They are actually agranulocytes in WBCs. And some of the monocytes in the embryonic stages, they get modified to form osteoclasts, which are actually modified monocytes only. So जैसा function monocytes का है, something destructive, वही same function osteoclasts का भी है. They cause bone resorption. ठीक है? Bone resorption meaning simple language that a bone has got its own shape and structure. Suppose if you eat too much of calcium and protein, doesn't mean that you are going to extend your bone. ऐसे bone इधर से निकलना शुरू हो जाएगा, ऐसा नहीं होगा ना, just because you have too much of calcium and protein. In that situation, these are the cells which actually maintain the shape of the bone. They help in the growth and repair of the bone. ठीक है? So wherever they feel that the structure is going a little out of the shape, then they will start destructing and causing resorption. So they are the cells which cause bone resorption. They are the ones that cause bone resorption. Okay? So what are they? They are the cells which are modified monocytes known as osteoclasts, and they actually cause destruction of the bone, which means bone resorption. उस area को थोड़ा सा resorb करते हैं. ठीक है? Okay, they cause destruction of the matrix. That's what is the meaning of resorption. So that your bones do not grow in any dimension. We cannot have bones like dinosaurs. We are human beings. So our bones should have a particular shape and size. Just because you're eating a lot of calcium and protein doesn't mean that you have a bone popping up from anywhere. Right? So they maintain it. Okay, I will remove everything here so that you can read this pop-up. Okay. And all these cells are formed from osteoprogenitor cells. ठीक है? तो सबसे पहले है osteoprogenitor. Right? Osteoprogenitor divides and gets converted to osteoblast. Osteoblast matures and get converted to osteocytes, and some of the monocytes get modified to form osteoclasts. Okay, osteoblasts are bone forming, osteocytes are bone maintaining. They are the one which maintain the structure of the bone, and osteoclasts are responsible for bone resorption, that is destruction of the matrix to maintain its growth, repair and shape. Right? I hope this is clear to all of you. We are now moving ahead. This is what I am talking about. So when you have a bone, you slice it in a thin section and observe under the microscope. You are observing a bone under the microscope. So this is absolutely magnified and this is how it looks like. Okay, now can you see? I will use a red one so it can be easily noticed. Okay, can you see this layer? Right, now this layer 1, 2 and 3, they are actually periosteum. Periosteum is the outermost covering. If you remember, we did it in the beginning. This is the periosteum. Okay? If you just get in the center of the periosteum, can you see? This is a Haversian canal. This is a Haversian canal. right? Okay, around the Haversian canal, can you see these cells with their processes? These are actually bone cells. These are bone cells, right? Now, the region where bone cells are present is known as lacunae. The region, this is the region, this is the bone cell. Okay, the region around, the immediate region around it is known as lacunae. So region where bone cells are present is known as lacunae. And can you see that they are arranged around each other? The cells are arranged around each other in the form of concentric circle. मतलब छोटा से बड़ा ऐसे circle. Can you see this? They are arranged in the form of concentric circles. These concentric circles are known as lamellae. All right. Once again, we are cutting the bone from outside. So the first layer that you cut is periosteum. That's the first layer. Now you have entered into the matrix. In the center of the matrix, you find a canal which is known as Haversian canal. Around about the Haversian canal, there are number of cells, bone cells. These are bone cells, right? Can you see they have processes called canaliculi? Now these bone cells, the region in which they are present, that immediate region is known as lacunae. The region in which bone cells are present is known as lacunae, and they are arranged in the form of concentric rings. Those concentric rings are known as lamellae. The concentric rings are known as lamellae, right? Now, if this is the outer side of the bone, this is the inside of the bone. So when you enter inside, you again get a layer. This layer is endosteum, and under the endosteum there is a medullary cavity. Under the endosteum there is medullary cavity. Okay, and in the medullary cavity is present the bone marrow. Okay, so and these two Haversian canals are going to communicate with each other or connected with each other, underlined नीचे से, by Waxman canal. By a Waxman canal. Is that okay? So we start cutting the bone from the outside. So outermost layer, periosteum. In the center, canal, Haversian canal. Around the canal, the cells, they are bone cells. Bone cells, the area in which bone cells are present, lacunae. And the ring-like arrangement of bone cells, lamellae. Lamellae, here it is. You can see the name. The lamellae are given different name: outer lamellae, outer circumferential, inner circumferential. You don't have to remember all these names. Not required. You just remember that the bone cells are arranged in the form of concentric rings known as lamellae. Right? When you move inside, you form there is another layer which is known as endosteum. Okay? And under the endosteum, there is medullary cavity which is filled with bone marrow. Is that okay to everyone? Right? Shall we move ahead? Okay, and yes, important aspect. The two Haversian canal are going to communicate with each other with the help of Waxman canal. Okay? Okay, types of bones. Types of bones. Depending upon how hard or soft they are, there are two types of bones. These bones are known as spongy bones, compact bones, right? Compact, as the name tells you, they are hard, whereas spongy are the ones which are spongy, a bit soft. Spongy का मतलब ये नहीं है कि sponges के जितना soft. It means a little less harder than compact ones. All right. Okay. Now this is a very important thing. Compact bones have Haversian canal present. Spongy bones don't have Haversian canal. Okay. The compact will have yellow bone marrow. The spongy will have red bone marrow. The compact stores fat. The spongy produces blood cells. The compact one is hard and compact. The spongy is spongy, less harder than the hard one. It is present in diaphysis. This is present in epiphysis. So in the same bone, long bone, there are two regions. This region is a spongy region and this region is a compact region. Are you getting this? And if you remember this, you will remember all the differences. Okay? Now this is a spongy region, this is a compact region. This will have a yellow bone marrow. This will have a red bone marrow. Since it has a yellow bone marrow, it will store fat. It has a red bone marrow, it will produce RBCs and WBCs and platelets. It is present in epiphyseal region. This is present in diphyseal region. Now here, if you take a section, you will find Haversian canal present. But if you take a section over here, you will not find Haversian canal, which means in the epiphyseal region, Haversian canal is absent. In the epiphyseal region, Haversian canal is absent. Very, very important aspect. Please remember. Okay? Okay, I hope this is clear to every one of you. Once again, in a same long bone, there are two regions, compact and spongy. Epiphyseal region, spongy. Has red bone marrow. Produces blood cells. Doesn't have Haversian canal. Long bone. The shaft of the bone, compact bone. It's a hard bone. It has yellow bone marrow. Produces fat, or not actually produces fat, stores fat. Okay. It is present in which region? Diaphysis region. And it has Haversian canal. All right. Okay. So we move on to the next. Human skeleton finally. Okay. Okay. Now human skeleton is divided into two parts. All right, we will first see the parts and then I will minimize this PPT so that I can show you those parts. Oh my god, this is jumping also, showing this it's living. Axial skeleton. Axial skeleton, it is present in the medial longitudinal axis. Medial matlab ye beta, medial and longitudinal axis. This is medial longitudinal axis, right? So what does it contain? It comprises of skull. It comprises of vertebral column, that is the backbone. It comprises of sternum. So this is the sternum. And it comprises of ribs. Okay. So if I escape this, if I escape this and if I can show it to you. Okay. See, I'm talking about this region. The sternum, the skull, the vertebral column, if I can rotate it further. See, this is the vertebral column. And this is sternum and these are the ribs. Okay. All right. Oh, it is jumping again. Okay. So is this fine? The next, appendicular skeleton. It is present on the lateral side. So if this is the longitudinal medial side, these are the lateral sides. These are the lateral sides, right? So it is present on the lateral sides and it comprises of pectoral and pelvic girdle. So this is pectoral girdle and this entire thing is pelvic girdle. Pectoral girdle and pelvic girdle, right? Okay, so human skeleton is divided into two parts. The first is axial skeleton. Axial skeleton is present in the mid-longitudinal axis. The mid-longitudinal axis, it comprises of skull. The vertebral column, ribs, sternum. The appendicular is the one that's on the lateral side. These are the lateral sides. It comprises of pectoral girdle and pelvic girdle. So this is pectoral girdle and this is pelvic girdle. Okay. All right. Now number of bones. Number of bones after birth or as an adult we have 206 bones. 206. Okay. but at the time of the birth there are 270 bones, out of which some of them just fuse to make the number 206, and in the bones in the fetus 306. तो करीब 100 bones जो है they are reduced. ठीक है, so bones in the fetus 306, at the time of birth 270, but after birth in some duration becomes 206. The bones then unite, they join together to give that number 206. All right, okay. All right, now we are moving towards the conclusive part of this topic, that is the skull bones. We will now discuss the skull bones. All right, now skull bones, as you can see a skull over here. Skull bones comprises of cranium. If I can show you these bones, these are cranium, this is cranium, and the bones which are here, they are facial. Okay, so this is cranium and these are facial. So there are two types of skull bones, cranial bones and facial bones. In the facial only there are two more added. What are those two? They are hyoid. Hyoid is present over here, to which the tongue is attached, and ear ossicles which are present in the ear. Now they cannot be shown over here, but they are considered to be part of skull only, right? In certain books they have mentioned them as a part of facial bones, but there are total these bones. What are they? Cranial bones 18 number, facial bones 14 in number including them, right? So total bones कितने हो गए? 22 bones. ठीक है? Okay, so facial bones में we are also incorporating hyoid bone and ear ossicles. Some of the books have dealt with them separately, but that's okay. You just need to remember the total number. Is that okay to everyone? All right. Oh, this fellow is moving. Okay. All right. So skull bones. We are only talking about skull bones, and after we finish with the skull bones, we will end this session. Okay. All right. Oh, he is here again. Cranium. Right. What is cranium? The helmet-like structure, that a natural helmet that nature has gifted you. That's cranium. It protects our brain. So it's very, very important because it is protecting one of the vital organs of our body, that is our brain, the control center of our body. Okay. See, it is a cover or the helmet of the brain. Inside the I mean, if you make that cranium hollow, if you remove every neural tissue out of it, then it is a cavity. That cavity is known as cranial cavity, and this cranial cavity has got immense importance in evolution. ठीक है, evolution में इसका बहुत importance है, क्योंकि ये cranial cavity has got a volume, and depending upon that volume we can say that this particular animal, whether he is इंटेलिजेंट एज इन कि एप्टीट्यूड और लॉजिक वाइज नहीं, हाँ, इंटेलिजेंट, इवोल्यूशनरी इंटेलिजेंस कितना है उसमें, दैट वी कैन अंडरस्टैंड, राइट? सो क्रेनियल कैविटी, cranium, from the cranium, if you remove all the neural tissue, then the cavity, that is cranial cavity, and that cranial cavity has a volume which we call cranial capacity. Now this cranial capacity tells us about our evolutionary links. It also tells us about how intelligent are we from the other animals, right? So our cranial capacity or size is on an average 1475 ml, 1475 ml. This is our cranial capacity on an average, right? And we are Homo sapiens sapiens. We are formed from Homo sapiens, which were Cro-Magnon man. And you will be really astonished to know कि उनका cranial capacity हमसे ज़्यादा था. They had better evolved brain than us. तो वहां से एवोल्यूशन में थोड़ा सा ब्रेन कैपेसिटी कम किया है, नेचर ने थोड़ा ब्रेन कैपेसिटी हमारा कम कर दिया है, राइट? सो क्रो मैग्नन मैन which is Homo sapiens, and we are Homo sapiens sapiens. Our capacity is 1475, but if you look at their capacity, 1600 tak ki thi, 1650 rather, right? So they had more cranial capacity than us. They were more intelligent than us. So nature ने purposely हमको intelligence हमारा कम कर दिया. Okay. Okay, now in the middle of the floor of the cranium, there is an opening. For that, we'll have to escape from this and we'll have to go to the normal thing. हाँ, see, अभी अच्छे से देखो, हाँ. This is the cranium and yeah, can you see this cavity? Okay, I will now put it again in the slideshow so that this remains. Okay, can you see this cavity? This, this is an opening. This is known as foramen magnum. We'll get all those things back. See, in the middle of the floor of the cranium, there is an opening. What is the opening? That's known as foramen magnum. Right? The brain is connected to the spinal cord through this opening. So a region of the brain comes out of here and communicates with the, or gets connected to the, or gets extended in the spinal cord in our dorsal side. Right? This opening is known as foramen magnum. Okay? Right? So skull को ऐसे ऊपर किया, अंदर की तरफ there is an opening, that is foramen magnum. Okay, now the cranium comprises of 8 bones. There are total 8 bones and they are flat bones. The bones are flat bones. Okay, so how many bones are there in the cranium? There are total 8 bones. What kind of bones are they? They are flat bones. Okay, and these bones are connected to each other by sutures. I'll show you what are sutures. These bones are interlocked by sutures. I'll show you what are sutures. Can you see this? Can you see this? There are serrated margins like this. These ones. I'll remove the ink. You can see it now. These ones I'm talking about. These ones. Can you see the serrated margins? These are sutures. These are sutures. So the bones are interlocked by sutures. Right? Okay. So we will now learn about the names and a brief important characteristic of these 8 bones, and then we will find out. All right. Okay, he has come here. Frontal bone, right? Frontal bone. Frontal bone meaning the bone of your forehead. This is the bone. This is the one that I'm talking about. This is the frontal bone. Okay, this is frontal bone. It forms the forehead. It is a single bone. It's not paired. When we are using the word single and paired, which means you have to remember which bone is single, which bone is paired. So this is a single bone, right? Frontal bone. It also forms the eye sockets. Can you see the roof of the eye socket? This area is formed by frontal bone, this area. Forehead and the roof of the eye socket and the nasal cavity, this part of the bone. See this, right? The part of the nasal cavities, the roof of the eye sockets and your forehead is formed by this bone, which is known as frontal bone. The next is parietal bone. Okay, it's a paired bone. For that, we will again escape this. I'll show you what is parietal. Okay. Okay, now can you see these two bones? So this was frontal, and behind frontal there are two. These are parietal, right? Okay, so parietal, there are two. They are present behind the frontal. They are paired, and they make the bulging top of our cranium. We have a bulging top over here. That's because of parietal bone. And they also make the sides. See, these are the sides. They also make the sides of our cranium, right? So frontal is single. It makes the forehead, the roof of the eye sockets, and the nasal cavity. Parietal is present behind the frontal. It is paired, so there are two, and it forms the rooftop, the bulging top of our cranium, and the side of the cranium. Okay? All right. So I've shown you frontal, shown you parietal. All right. Okay. Occipital. Occipital is situated behind the parietal. So the last bone here, occipital. Foramen magnum, yaad hai, opening, that was in the occipital only. So the last bone, that is occipital, and it is present behind parietal, and it's a single bone. We will have that 3D model. I will show it to you from there. It's a single bone. All right. Foramen magnum is present in that. I told you that opening foramen magnum, about which we talked about in the beginning of the bones of the skull, that opening is present in occipital bone. It's a single bone. It is present behind the parietal. Okay, it is and on the either side of foramen magnum there is an elevation known as condyles. I will show you condyles also, right? This is known as, that is why the vertebrate skull is dicondylic. We are dicondylic. I show it to you. I'll escape from here. Okay, see, we are talking about this. Can you see this bone? This is a single bone. Can you see this? This is occipital, right? And if we flip occipital, can you see this part? This is foramen magnum, and this is foramen magnum. And on the either side of foramen magnum, can you see there are elevations? These elevations are known as condyles, right? Now these condyles are the ones which will articulate with the first bone of our neck, and that is atlas, our first vertebrae, atlas. All right. So our skull is dicondylic because we have two condyles. Now in the chapter Animal Kingdom, you had learned about being monocondylic, dicondylic. So if animal has only one elevation, monocondylic. If they have two elevations, dicondylic. Human beings, mammals are dicondylic. All right. What is being dicondylic? In the occipital bone, at its floor, there is an opening known as foramen magnum. On the either side of foramen magnum, there are two elevations. Those elevations are known as condyles. Here is the name, condyle. These condyles help to join to our first vertebrae. What is our first vertebrae? That is atlas. And such a skull is known as dicondylic. So mammals are dicondylic. Is that okay? These are condyles. This is foramen magnum. These are condyles. This is foramen magnum. All right. Okay. Temporal. Okay. So we'll escape this once again. And this Mr. Skull is further rotated to show you temporal. Okay. See. Okay. Can you see this bone? Right? This was frontal. This is parietal. and this is temporal. So this is one temporal and there is temporal on the other side also, because you are looking at the side face. So on the other side there is one more temporal. So temporal is present on the lower side. Okay, and it is a paired bone. One is present here and one is present on the other side. Okay, it forms the left and right side of our cranium. It forms the left and right lower side. Left and right sides जो है वो parietal ने बनाए, left and right lower sides जो है temporal ने बनाए, ठीक है, back occipital ने, front frontal ने. All right, and can you see now? This is the region where we will have the ear, right? So this is the bone that houses our external and actually our internal and middle ear. This is the bone that houses our internal and middle ear. The internal and middle ear are present. Have you read that bony labyrinth, membranous labyrinth? So bony labyrinth is formed by temporal bone. So temporal bone houses your internal and middle ear. The parts of the internal and middle ear are present, housed in the temporal bone. Okay. It also forms our external auditory meters. The auditory meters that we have, that's also formed by, part of it is formed by temporal bone. Okay. All right. Next, sphenoid bone. Okay. Now, sphenoid bone, frontal, parietal, temporal, occipital. Inside, when you move inside, there is a butterfly shaped bone, right? That bone is known as sphenoid bone. Okay, so this is frontal, this is parietal, temporal, and in this region on the inner side there is a bone which is a butterfly shaped bone. I will show it to you. It's a single bone, it's a butterfly shaped bone, and it articulates with all the bone. So its shape is like this, like a butterfly. So it articulates with frontal also, parietal also, occipital also, and temporal also. Okay, and it is present in front of occipital. So this is occipital, so in front of that. Now here I'll escape this and show it to you. In fact, here also it's not very clearly visible, this area. We'll get it in the slide. Here, somewhere here. Can you see? Right? A part of it is only visible, right? So it is in front of occipital. This is occipital. So in front of occipital, it is butterfly shape. It is single and it articulates with all the bones of the skull. And this bone near this particular butterfly shaped bone near the brain, it has got a depression. Uske upper surface pe there is a depression. In this depression is present this gland. What is this gland? This is pituitary, right? And this depression is known as sella turcica. The depression is called sella turcica. The name is mentioned in the NCERT. I'm trying to show where it is present. This is sphenoid bone. It's a butterfly shape. You cannot see the entire structure here right now. It's a butterfly shape present in front of occipital, and on its upper roof there is a depression. There is a depression on its upper roof. That depression is called sella turcica. In that depression is present the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland is present in this depression. Okay, so this is important. It's mentioned in NCERT. Do remember it. Okay, now ethmoid. It's a single bone. Wait. See, if I need to show you ethmoid. Now, this is actually a nasal bone. Just behind it, there is another bone which is ethmoid bone. That ethmoid bone has got processes. Those processes are known as terminals. Now we had learned about terminals in breathing and exchange. There were three concave: superior, inferior, and middle concave. So we are talking about that only. Ethmoid. It's a single bone. It is present in front of sphenoid but behind nasal bone. So what you see over here is a nasal bone. Can you make out that this, what you see is a nasal bone? Behind this is the ethmoid bone, right? From the ethmoid bone arises two, there are two small structures present in the ethmoid bone, which are known as, there are two concave known as superior and middle concave. From these concave arises spiral processes which are known as terminals. Okay, so this you have to imagine a bit. You have to imagine that in front of sphenoid there is a small bone. That small bone is actually present behind the nasal bone, and that small bone has got two structures. Those two structures are superior and middle concave, and these concave have a spiral structure. So spiral structure is known as terminal, right? And we know that these structures help in the humidification of the air. Okay, उधर blood vessels आते हैं. Those blood vessels bring the air that you have inhaled to your normal body temperature. All right, so this part we had already learned in breathing and exchange. I'm just showing you the location. In front of sphenoid, behind the nasal. So what you see here is a nasal bone. Behind this nasal bone. Is that okay? Okay, my dear friends, I hope there was no doubt here. So we can easily move on to here. And I hope you like this video of mine. And I had used a lot of 3D models to give you a clear picture of the skull. In my next video, we are going to move ahead with the facial bones and the bones of the ribs and sternum, right? So please do subscribe to the channel. Do press this bell icons. Next time whenever I'm online, you get it. Do like, share and subscribe. And what you see over here is a link of our Telegram channel. This is our official channel, and we keep posting when do we have lectures. So please do join in this and download the app quickly. Use my code NAMYT and get a 10% discount on the subscription, right? I hope you like this video of mine, and shall meet you soon. My actual timing is every day 3 o'clock, right? Okay, बच्चा लोग, bye bye. Bye dear students. Bye बच्चा लोग.